How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a day of. I started at 6:55 this morning doing interviews, and it's kind of been pretty much straight through. But and it's now 7:05 in the evening. So it's been a good day. Been a good day. We've got a lot covered.
I'm glad I caught you fresh.
No, but man, do you know these? So basically, they what they do is they start the day with interviews that are fun, and they finish the day with interviews that are fun, and these are my last three basically, and I like these are the most in depth ones I'm doing, which is great.
Well,
The
that's
other
a,
ones are just like five minutes here and there, so
well.
it's really nice to get to speak about the album properly.
I'm glad to hear you say that, and I have a lot of questions about it. I guess what I'm interested in first is how does it feel when you have an album like this, which is a very personal album. How does it feel when you have an album like this right before it comes out?
Well, I think if I kind of took the Drake or Kanye approach, I would be tinkering. I would be like, oh, I got to change this. I got to change this. I got to change this. But because I had to have it on vinyl, you send it off like 4 months before because it takes so long now. You have to literally book out 3 vinyl factories way in advance, and then you have to have the album done way in advance and send it. So the album's actually, I've had the vinyl at my house for about a month now, so it's been done since like July.
But how is it? Does it feel like the album is yours until it goes out?
Very much so, yeah. But I feel like this is my most personal, raw s- statement of an album, and I don't think I'm gonna. I feel really connected to this, like really, really connected to this. Where the others like Divide, there were moments of it that I was super connected to, and there were moments that were just fun. Like Shape of You, I'm connected to the moment that had, and I'm connected to the crowd's reaction when I play that. But I'd be lying if I said like I listen to it and it stirs up like a deep emotion that makes me feel something. I just feel great when I hear it, and it's like, oh, cool, it's that song. Whereas this album, pretty much every song has come from quite a real place. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and what's surprising about that to me is that if it comes from a real place and you feel very attached to it. Am I wrong that there was a time, like maybe about a year ago, where you thought you weren't going to make any more music at all?
I wanted to retire from giving a fuck. Like I didn't want to retire, but I found myself like, I mean, one of the first lines of this album on Tides is I lost the confidence in who I was. I was too busy trying to chase the high and get the numbers up. And that was literally, my career started with me loving writing songs and loving performing, and no one gave a fuck. And I would just play to empty rooms songs that all of my friends took the piss out of me about for getting in touch with my feelings and all of this stuff. And then suddenly people start taking an interest, and I feel vindicated. And then I start releasing more music, and then it gets really big. And then I go, oh, well, how far can I take this? And I take it super far. And then it starts becoming about the chase and the high. And it feels amazing to have a song that's a hit single round the world. And then you start writing songs that not like are designed for that, but sort of lean to that. You go, oh, maybe I'll do this. And I just found myself being pretty empty with it, because I feel if you create a hit, right, and all it is a hit, like the sole purpose of it is to be a hit. And if it's not, what is it? What is it? So I wanted to start making music how I was making my first and second album, that were more it was just how I felt at the time. And like, these songs could be hits, they could not be hits, but I can stand by them pretty proudly and be like, this is my best work.
So is it the money and the fame you have to sort of get out of your mind?
Nothing, nothing to do with money. It's never ever to do with money. It's like, I would play gigs for free. I write songs. I literally don't care. I don't know what's in my bank account, and that is honest to God. I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's about the reach. It's about the reach that I love. And I make a song. The thing that I was chasing was, you make a song and you want the world to hear it, and then suddenly the world is hearing it. I can go to the middle of bloody nowhere in Asia, like in the middle of a forest, and they know Shape of You, and that is a buzz to create these songs that go worldwide. But these songs go worldwide by accident. You can't design that. It's basically, you just create something that makes you feel something, and then it travels the world. And I got caught up in the trying to have that moment too many times.
So how do you turn that off?
I had a few that didn't work. I put out a few that didn't work, and it made me feel like shit. And I was like, fuck this, I'm getting back to what I actually love. And I just started writing songs that really made me feel like there are songs in this album that I've cried writing to, and that never happens. You know, I've really, really opened up little portals that a little portal of my heart that I hadn't really tapped into before.
I love hearing when things don't work out. That makes me sound like a psychopath. I love hearing that things don't work out and the lessons that come from that, you know?
Of course, man. I think, you know, the thing with my career is I say this and people will actually struggle to believe that. They'll be like, well, of course, everything works out, because they only hear of the successes, because that's all that people really talk about.
Yeah.
But I've had many things along the way that I've been sure of and that went wrong. But I always say I learn way more from my failures than I do from my success. You know, because from success, what lesson is learned? Okay, you did a job well. Can you do it again? Whereas with failures, it's always, now how could I improve on this? What did I get wrong here? And what should I be doing, basically?
I want to play a song off the record. I want to play the first big single. Take a listen to this.
My bad habits lead to late nights and in alone conversations with a stranger I barely know, swearing this will be the last, but it probably won't. I got nothing left to lose or use, or do my bad habits lead to...
That is Ed Sheeran and Bad Habits from his new album Equals. I got a question about something I've noticed that is in common. So I was reading that you wrote that song, or that song was sort of the last song to go on the record after the record was done. I know I ended up reading The Shape of You was like that too. And I know that Yellow by Coldplay was done after the record was over. And I know that Where the Streets Have No Name by U2 was done after the record was over.
Thinking Out Loud was the same, and Give Me Love was the same. I think that's the point where you stop thinking in album terms and you start getting back to, hey, fuck it, let's try this out. And I think that's what I spent so long in the studio banging my head, being like, what's the first single going to be? What's the first single going to be? And once I'd chosen Shivers as the first single, it was just like, right, let's just get back in the studio and chuck ideas out there. And that's when Bad Habits came. It's when Shape of You came. It's when Thinking Out Loud came. It's like, it just happens like that. It just happens like that. That's the way that your mind works. As soon as you take your foot off the pedal, your creativity starts swirling around again.
I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could just start there?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite frustrating because my label know that that's the case. So they will just push and push and push. And like, I did Bad Habits even. And I was like, cool, first single. And they were like, nope, still more, still more. And I got Leave Your Life in 2-step, like last minute. So I'm glad they pushed, but it's like a real confidence knock when you feel like nothing you've done is quite good enough.
But I had a producer one time tell me that he said one of the most challenging things about trying to make hit records is that people try to make hit records. He said, you know, like you put the great songwriters and great producers and great artists into the same room, but you can only hope. Like you can't force that, you know?
No, you can't. And so, I mean, sometimes there's like bottled magic that, you know, you get when you work with someone for the first time. But a lot of the times, as you said, you put all the best people in one room together. Sometimes you clash head. Sometimes I work with people like I feel like Lennon and McCartney are A-B, you know, so sometimes McCartney is the A and Lennon's the B, and McCartney leads it and Lennon will go, right, change this, but McCartney will be leading the charge. And then sometimes it's the other way around. Lennon will be leading the charge and McCartney will be going A, B, A, B. You can't have two A's because then it's just, what about this? No, what about this? No, what about this? No, what about, and you can't have two B's because they just sit back and wait for someone else to do something. But it's very, very important I find in my mind, I'm pretty much A on my own. And
you're going.
I'm just going. Yeah. But the B to my A is this guy, Johnny McDade, who I work with. And sometimes his contribution will be gargantuan. And sometimes his contribution will be like, hey, have you thought about just changing this word here? And sometimes I need someone like that to step out a little bit. And like when I wrote Love Yourself for Justin Bieber.
I love that song, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But Benny Blanco, if you watch the video, like I do the guitar chords and then I start writing the song and the lyrics are coming from my head, but Benny's saying, yeah, but why don't you go in this direction? And then I'll think of some more stuff and he'll go, okay, cool, stop there. But what about this? And it's less of a they write a lyric and then I write a lyric and they write, but it's almost having someone steering the ship while you're going straight ahead, basically.
The album, I want to be cautious of time here. And the album is My favorite moments on it are where it feels like an exploration of what's actually important. It's an exploration of, getting everything you've ever wanted and things you've never imagined you'd ever get and never wanted, but then realizing at the end of the day what's important. And there's a song I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about First Times, because the opening lines of the song are about the first time you play at Wembley and how you thought that experience might feel different. I have a question about it, but talk me through the expectation and then the reality.
Well, I think something like that is built up so much. It's my national stadium. It's the biggest stadium in England. I think Europe. I mean, it's huge, and it's where you don't play if you're a musician. You play if you're Bruce Springsteen, but you don't play if you're a Suffolk boy who raps with a loop pedal. That's just not something. So when it was put on the table to do, it was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do that. And when I was on stage, everyone before was like, man, you've made it. This is it. This is the moment. And I was like, yeah, man, I've made it. This is it. This is the moment. And I went out on stage and I went, oh, it's just a gig. And then you do the gig and then you get off stage and you're like, you expect it to be this explosion of, oh my God, this is what life's about. But it was just a gig, and it was a really fun gig, but it's not like my career stopped there. The next night I had another show. But what I found was, after that moment of feeling like I would feel something, I went back into my dressing room and my wife opened a beer and gave me the beer, and we clinked glasses and had a sip and just started talking. And then I started feeling loads of things. And I was like, this is such an insignificant moment in my career. Like, the significant moment is me on stage at Wembley, but this moment makes me feel way more than that. And then the song just inspired me to go back at all the little things, as I said, like the simplest things in life. That the first time I had red wine with my wife was opposite a pizza joint in Brooklyn. And at the time it was like, yeah, we're just drinking red wine on a step opposite the pizza joint. And now every time we go back to New York, we do exactly the same thing. We go and get a bottle of red wine. We sit on the stoop. We wait for the pizza. We go and get it. And that's become, all these first times become history in our relationship. And the song ends with our first child and then a million more first times. And I'm now seeing my daughter take her first steps. Like today, I literally just before this interview, I put her to bed and I read her 4 bedtime storybooks, and she's pointing at I'll say, where's the frog? And she'll point at the frog, and I'll go, where's the squirrel? And she'll point at the squirrel. And it's me seeing all these things whirring her mind for the first time is amazing. But these tiny, tiny things mean so much more to me than Wembley Stadium, than Grammys, than platinum albums. It's like these are the things life are about.
I'm glad, because it reminded me of this quote I read from Aaron Rodgers, who's the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. And he said he had worked his entire life to win a Super Bowl, and then he won a Super Bowl, and the party was over, and he got on the bus, and he said, that's it? I've been working my whole life for that. And he felt empty. He felt sad,
Dude, when I walked off stage after Ipswich, it was the biggest tour ever.
Yeah.
Divide had sold 25 million copies, and this tour had grossed like an obscene amount of money. And I remember stepping off stage and being like, well, I can either accept that that's the peak of my career and it's all downhill from here, or I can try and find joy and happiness in other things. And this album's not going to sell as much as Divide, probably won't even sell as much as Multiply, but it's a better album. And that's what brings me joy.
That's beautiful. There's a couple of songs there where I can hear you taking stock of your life and, who you are and who you want to be and kind of the things we're talking about there. Tides, I wanted to talk a little bit about the line, I've grown up, I'm a father now, but I'm still the same somehow.
Yeah. Well, I found myself like, I thought I would hold my child again, like Wembley, and it would be this moment that just clicked and I would go, right, I'm a dad and this is it and blah, blah, blah. I remember holding my kid and being like, man, I'm the same person. I need to make some lifestyle choices that, pivot towards me being a dad. I still feel like 29-year-old Ed. I need to feel like the dad, a father. And she's 14 months now, and I really feel like I'm in full swing now. And you just prioritize different things. The fact that I was able to get half an hour in my day of Zoom. I got lunch off. I got to feed her lunch, and then I got half an hour to do dinner, bed and bath, and I just put her to bed and gave her a kiss on the forehead. And that I'm still able to do this crazy life and existence, but it's kind of in tandem with being a dad.
That's beautiful. And I love the way the song is set up because it feels like a sort of like a hullabaloo. Like there's a lot of, I sound like it's 1933 apparently, but there's a lot going on. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like, there's models and film premieres, and there's traveling and there's shows. And then quite literally in the song, the production and all the music stops when you get to the part about singing about your daughter.
Yeah, and man, I feel like that. I feel like that. I wanted that song to slap you in the face. I want it to start and you go, "Oh God, it's a bit quiet. Do I need to turn it up?" And it just goes, and it's just chaos. And it's just, here's my life, and this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And literally, the door closes and it's time stops to still when you were in my arms. And it's I do feel like that. I've had the most insane week this week. It's just interview after interview. I'm off to France at fucking 3:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then I go to Italy. But like when I'm with my daughter, nothing else matters, and no one can reach me. It's just that is that. And I've wanted to express that in a song. And I love that the album begins and it's essentially just stadium rock chaos, and then it goes into the smallest product. It's just a cappella, and then I love the chaos and calm.
But you're telling me about the changes you've made from the beginning of your career and the realizations you've had through your success through this conversation. In some ways, a bit of a return to form, a return to the songs you were writing when you first started. I was in Montreal and I got home from the pub really late, and I turned on, the James Corden show was on, and it was the week that you were doing the week of it, right? You were doing all the shows. Yeah. And there you were, what are you now? You're 29 now?
No, I'm 30.
30 now. And you were singing A-Team. And you were how old when you wrote that?
18.
And how are you singing that now? Like, can you relate to it now? How do you feel when you sing that song now?
Nothing, to be honest. It doesn't. That song doesn't belong to me anymore. That song is like it's in the ether. It's the public's. Like it's someone's first road trip with their mates. It's someone's first like night out with their girlfriend. It's just that song belongs to so many people, and I play it. I still love it. I mean, it means so much to me because it was my first hit single and whatever. But I can't relate to the guy that wrote that anymore. It's two different people, and that's not because of fame or money. That is an 18-year-old versus a 30-year-old. We're just two different people. I wrote that song in a bed sit in Guildford. Like I just lost my wallet that day. I'd been paid. I'd gone to play a girl's birthday party and I'd been paid £200, which was my rent for the month covered. And I lost my wallet that day. And I remember getting home and feeling like absolute shit and writing that song. And that song made me feel better. And now, as I said, I just put my daughter to bed. I'm just about to go and have a lasagna with my wife. And it's just two different things. And it's not me playing a tiny venue and then me playing a stadium. It's just, I'm just a different person. It's just a different person.
I'm glad you didn't go full Radiohead and not play it anymore or anything like that, you know?
See, I don't agree with that per se, but then Radiohead are a different band than me. I'm a pop artist.
You're the same.
Well, I think, I take the REM, Coldplay, U2 approach.
Yeah.
And Elton John. If it's a hit, you play it. And if people have paid to see you, like I can't get away with not playing Shape of You. I can't get away with not playing Perfect. Like people have paid to see those songs. So if I'm going to play a concert and charge people money, I'm going to play those songs. But sometimes I play concerts and I do them for free. And when people come in, I go, do you know what? I'm playing whatever the fuck I want tonight. And that is fair, I think.
Let me close out this way. What's the goal now for you? Outside of wanting to get off the phone with me so you can go see your daughter, what's the goal for you creatively, for you professionally?
For me, it's just about being in the conversation still. I want my music to be heard. It's not about being the biggest ever. You know, I've had my big moment. I've had the biggest album of the year. I've had the biggest tour. Like, it's not about beating that. It's about being, I never want to be in a point where I release an album into an abyss. I don't want someone to be like, oh, what? Oh, you released an album. Oh shit, I should probably listen to that. I always want to be in the conversation. What I love about Coldplay is I'm on pop radio in England at the moment, and Olivia Rodrigo's on pop radio in England, and Kid Leroy's on pop radio, and so are Coldplay. And Coldplay are 25 years into their career, and they are next to 18-year-olds, and they're next to 30-year-olds. And Chris is, I think he's 46 or something like that, and he's still managing to be in the conversation. And they're not the biggest artist on Spotify, and they're not the biggest artist on iTunes, but they're in the conversation still 25 years in, and people still care. And I want that. I don't ever want to be I don't want to put 4 years into an album like I just did, and then you go, oh yeah, I don't really want to interview him, to be honest. But since I'm in the conversation still, you do. So I would love to always make music people want to listen to.
Well, I say I got a lot out of the record, and a great exploration of what's important to us as humans, and a great exploration of what happens when you reach your goals, and a great exploration of what really matters. And Ed, I always love talking to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, man. That was a great interview, and I loved actually talking about the record. So many interviews today have been like, "What's your bad habit?" And you're like, so I love actually talking about the record.
I'm saying it now. Ed Sheeran was my guest. His new album Equals is out everywhere October 29th.